Hey guys, Eddie back with Couch Talk. Welcome back to the show. If it's your first time with me, welcome to the show. Guys, please hit like, please hit subscribe, turn your notifications on. It really helps me out with the algorithm. It's the only way I'm going to break out into this industry. But I promise if you stick with me, I will earn your viewership. I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about the AP African American Studies class that is floating around the nation now. Now, it started in Florida. I know you guys saw Governor DeSantis's very visceral reaction to the course, and in his defense, the curriculum has changed a lot since when he looked at it. When he looked at it, it was very incorporative of the critical race theory preamble. It wasn't like the whole college level course, but it was definitely like the precepts to critical race theory, the pre-arguments that will get people in that frame of mind, and he was very opposed to that. Is still very opposed to it, as it is what he calls a anti-patriotic class. Now, one of the things I will say is this: you've heard me say many times that the best answer to bad information, bad speech, is more speech, right? And so with that in mind, I think this is actually a mistake. I think we should have the AP African American Studies class in schools. Obviously, it depends on what kind of school it is and how many different AP courses they offer. Like, I remember my school back in the day, I think only offered, I think, 6 or maybe 7 AP courses, and like 3 of those were like language courses, like Spanish 4, German 4, like the basically as high as you could go with a Spanish or German or Latin or something like that. But aside from the language courses, there was only like calculus, AP US history, AP English, and something else. But you get the point. So it was like obviously the most important, the core classes. So it may not fit into a school that only offers like 6 courses or 7 courses of AP credit. But if it's a school that offers, like 20 or 30, some of them are really big and have a lot of resources, I don't see any problem with it. But I feel like we should offer AP African American history, and we should also offer the counters to critical race. Like, if we're going to offer critical race theory preamble, then we should offer the preamble to the counters of critical race theory as well. Like an AP civics class or an AP socioeconomics class, AP poli-sci, something like that should be there, so that, because the problem with critical race theory is not that it doesn't have any merits. There are some valuable arguments, and it is important sometimes to look at the world through the lens of power, right? And that's the problem with critical race theory too, is that it's a very postmodernist, Marxist, like everything in the world is just power, right? And so when you look at the world through a lens of power, you're going to come up with some pretty interesting conclusions. Interesting and intriguing, worthy of study. Not necessarily correct, because it like forgets about the rest of the lenses that you could view the world through, many of which are very complex overlays, which either completely completely eclipse what power can tell us about the world, or just are so much vastly more important than that power lens. But the point is, you've heard me rail on critical race theory, but I don't think that means that we shouldn't ever talk about it, should never teach it. I just think that we should teach it and teach the counters to it, so we can teach them the other lenses with which to view the world, and that way they understand that it is not just about power. And so that way, not only will kids, because if you shut it all down, then no one's going to understand critical race theory. No one's going to understand the arguments that it brings to bear, and no one's going to understand how to combat that logic, because it is a very nuanced cyclical logic that is hard to overmatch unless you do some study. If you do some study, you see, it's like, oh, okay, no, it's not really about race and power. It's more like, da 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 da. And then you understand some of the other factors that come into play. Something else that I wanted to very briefly touch on, and that is, like, when I hear this argument come up about whether or not we should talk about AP African American history, the accusation that I hear often from the left is that the right doesn't want to teach history, that they're afraid of it, that they don't want to talk about it. I don't think that's a fair assessment, and here's why. When I was in school, I learned about slavery, I learned about Jim Crow, I learned about red line, I learned about all that stuff. What part of history do you think isn't being taught? Because it's all in there. Right now, yeah, definitely any part of history can be zeroed in on. Like, you can do a whole college course on 6 battles of the Civil War and how they managed to turn, like, you can, as you get more and more education, you learn more and more about less and less until you know everything about nothing, right? That's the classic system. But you know what? I mean, you can get as refined and zeroed in on something as you want. But we have all of that stuff in history. All of America's dark parts are in our standard U.S. history class. I learned about all of them. And every point in time, they made a point to explain how evil the European white man was. I mean, they didn't miss out on any of that, right? They kind of demonized Columbus a bit while I was in school. They, how he was an idiot and didn't know what he was doing, and he was racist and evil and mean to the... I mean, I got all that. We're not hiding from history. Nobody is. All of that is included in our standard history curriculum package. So I don't know what part of history you think America is ignoring, because it's all in there. Just want to have that out there. But I mean, I think more information is always better. So let me know what you guys think. Put your comments below. But I feel like the best way to handle an AP African American Studies course that teaches critical race theory is to teach the counters to critical race theory. Now, it looks like they've changed the curriculum and taken that critical race theory element out of it, which is probably good for grade schools. But I mean, I think if you're going to teach an AP course and you're ready to get into college level stuff, I don't see why it can't be in there, as long as we're teaching people a balanced understanding, right? I just don't want people to only learn the postmodernist, Marxist, everything is about power understanding of life, because if we start, that is an indoctrination, right? That's when it gets political. If we only teach that one lens. Now, if we teach it all, great. But if we only start teaching that one thing, then yes, that's like teaching only the left-hand side of things. All right. Let me know what you guys think. I'll catch you next time on Couch Talk.